You are dating someone and like everything is just clicking
Oh,
perfectly.
yeah, the classic honeymoon
All
phase.
right, you're going on these fantastic dates, you're sharing really intimate conversations late into the night. And I mean, from the outside looking in, it is a textbook romance.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
feels completely real.
But then the absolute second you try to put a label on it or, define what you're actually doing, the other person suddenly hits the brakes.
They just completely freeze up.
Exactly. They look you dead in the eye and insist, despite a mountain of behavioral evidence to the contrary, that you are just friends.
Right. They completely refuse to define the relationship.
It is a universally frustrating experience. And if you're listening to this, there is a very good chance you know exactly how disorienting that feels. I mean, it genuinely makes you feel like you're losing your grip on reality.
It's an incredibly jarring place to find yourself. You're essentially being handed two completely conflicting sets of data simultaneously.
Oh, for sure.
Because their actions are screaming one thing loud and clear, right? Intimacy, connection, routine. But their words are pulling in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah, it's maddening.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
perfectly valid to feel entirely confused and even, honestly, a little crazy in that dynamic.
Mm,
Your brain is just trying to reconcile two things that simply don't match up.
exactly. And that contradiction is our focus today. For this deep dive, we're looking at an incredibly insightful presentation put together by a practicing therapist and psychology doctoral student.
It's a fantastic breakdown.
It really is. The mission today is to decode that confusing behavior of avoidant partners and to uncover the hidden signs that they have actually already chosen you.
Even if they absolutely refuse to say the words out loud.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this because I think a lot of people listening are desperate for some clarity here. And the underlying mechanics of this are just, they're wild.
They are. And providing that clarity, the actual mechanics of it, is our goal here.
Yeah.
We want to really understand the psychological architecture of why avoidant partners act this way.
Yeah, the why is so important.
Because once you understand the nervous system's response, the actual mechanism behind the behavior, it takes the mystery out of it. It replaces the anxiety with logic.
Which is such a relief.
Right. But before we get into the specific behaviors, we should probably do a very quick reset on what we actually mean by avoidant, just to make sure we're all working with the same definitions.
That's a great idea, actually, because it gets thrown around on social media a lot as a buzzword for just like someone who is emotionally unavailable, but it's much deeper than that, right?
Far deeper, yeah.
Yeah.
It all goes back to attachment theory, which essentially maps out how we learned to connect with caregivers when we were very young.
Right, like babies and toddlers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how that translates into romantic relationships as adults. If you have a secure attachment style, you generally trust that people will be there for you.
You're pretty chill with intimacy.
Right. You're comfortable with intimacy, but also independence.
Hmm.
But if you have an avoidant attachment style, your foundational belief, like hardwired into your nervous system, is that relying on others is dangerous.
Wow.
Yeah. Your brain's alarm system is overly sensitive to being controlled, engulfed, or eventually abandoned. So your primary survival strategy is to maintain independence and emotional distance.
Which brings us to the first massive realization from the research that completely blew my mind.
Oh, the timeline gap.
Yes. When someone is dragging their feet on committing, the natural logical assumption is that they just aren't sure about you, right? You think, oh, they need more time to weigh their options.
Which is usually what it looks like from the outside.
Exactly. But it turns out avoidants actually choose their partners on a completely normal, secure timeline.
Yes.
We're talking about the standard 3 to 6 month mark.
What's fascinating here is the distinction between internal and external processing. For someone with a secure attachment style, deciding they want to be with someone internally and then communicating that decision externally.
They happen almost at the same time, right?
Exactly. They happen almost simultaneously. The thought and the action are completely synced up.
Yeah.
But for an avoidant, there is a massive firewall between those two events.
A firewall.
Yes. They might choose you internally at that 3-month mark, but they keep it entirely locked away in their own head.
Okay, but why? I mean, logically, if you know you want to be with someone and like you enjoy being around them, why keep it a secret? It just creates so much unnecessary tension.
Because that secret acts as a protective barrier. Remember, avoidants carry a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. To them, vulnerability equals danger.
Right.
By making the choice internally, but withholding the external confirmation, they maintain a crucial sense of safety and control.
So it's all about control.
Entirely.
Wow.
The logic, twisted as it might seem to a non-avoidant, is that if they never officially tell you they've chosen you, you can't take advantage of that commitment.
Oh,
You can't leverage their feelings against them, and they can't be devastated if you leave because, well, they never officially handed you the keys to their heart in the first place. They are shielding themselves.
it sounds almost exactly like a corporate merger. I mean, think about it. Internally, the acquiring company's board of directors has already reviewed the initial data, they love the synergy, and they've actually made the decision to buy at the 3-month mark.
I like this analogy.
Right. But they are absolutely terrified to issue the public press release to the market until they are 100% sure the other company's books are completely clean.
Right. They need to mitigate all the risk first.
Exactly. They need to investigate every single possible risk, run endless audits, and test the waters before going public.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it.
Right.
The internal decision is made, but the due diligence period is entirely about risk mitigation.
Yeah, the audits.
And that intense process of checking the books, as you put it, is where we start to see these hidden signs leak out into their everyday behavior. They are testing you to see if you are actually safe.
Which makes sense.
And that brings us to the core theme of all these behaviors, which is the establishment of trust. That is the absolute hardest hurdle for an avoidant nervous system to clear.
Which perfectly sets up the ultimate test of that trust. The therapist's presentation actually frames this as practically a done deal. Like if an avoidant does this, they aren't going anywhere.
Oh, the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, they start giving you the benefit of the doubt.
We really need to pause and emphasize just how monumental this is for an avoidant personality. Avoidants naturally have severe trust issues.
Yeah, they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Exactly. They are highly suspicious of people's motives. Their default physiological setting, their fight or flight response, is primed to assume that people will eventually let them down, secretly criticize them, or try to trap them.
They're just constantly scanning their environment for threats.
Always scanning, always on high alert.
There's a really specific, almost clumsy example in the material of how this plays out in real life.
Right, the loner comment.
Yeah. Imagine you're talking to your avoidant partner and you say something totally well-intentioned, but you just, phrase it poorly. You say something like, hey, I know you're a bit of a loner, so I'll give you some alone time this weekend.
Now, let's look at how an avoidant would typically process that statement through their standard defensive wiring. The word loner would trigger an immediate spike in their amygdala, the brain's fear center.
Because it sounds like an insult to them.
Exactly. Avoidants often carry a lot of deep-seated shame about their need for distance. So they hear the word loner and they instantly interpret it as a harsh existential criticism.
Wow.
Their internal monologue goes, they think I'm a weirdo, they're embarrassed by me, they're judging my fundamental character.
So they just spiral.
They do.
Yeah.
Emotional walls slam up instantly, and they might withdraw entirely or just pick a fight.
But if the merger is secretly approved,
Right.
if it have internally chosen you, that entire reaction changes.
Precisely. If they have internally chosen you, they manage to bypass that defensive fight or flight wiring. They use their prefrontal cortex to stop, regulate their nervous system, and actually look at your intent.
That's huge.
Instead of taking intense offense to the clumsy word loner, they think, okay, they didn't mean that as an insult. They are actually trying to respect my boundaries and give me the space I need.
They actually give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yes. When an avoidant can look past a poorly phrased comment and trust your underlying good intentions, it means they feel profoundly safe with you. They are essentially overriding their own deeply ingrained survival instincts.
Because their trust in you is just that strong.
Exactly.
That is just, it's huge. It really highlights how much internal work they're doing that you never even see.
So much happens beneath the surface.
Oh, right. But that internal trust doesn't just stay in the emotional realm forever.
Yeah.
It inevitably leaks into the practical, tangible side of life, which brings us to money.
Yes. Financial transparency.
Financial transparency is highlighted as a massive indicator, particularly for male avoidants.
Yes, because money is rarely just about currency. It's often deeply tied to independence, power, and survival security.
Especially for someone who relies on being completely self-sufficient.
Exactly. For an avoidant, sharing the gritty details of their financial reality is a profound relinquishing of privacy.
And we aren't just talking about, splitting the dinner check or mentioning what they do for a living.
No, the examples are very specific.
Highly specific and deeply vulnerable. It's them voluntarily sitting down and telling you the exact value of their Roth IRA,
Right.
or telling you exactly what their house is currently appraised at, or sharing the specific dollar amount they've managed to pay off on their mortgage this year.
For a male avoidant in particular, revealing that granular level of financial reality is a definitive metric of feeling safe. They are showing you the literal foundation of their independence.
It's like opening the vault.
Exactly.
Hmm.
They are saying, here is exactly how secure, or maybe even insecure, I actually am. It is an invitation into the inner sanctum of their fortress.
Wow.
Think about it. If they believed you were a threat, if they thought you might take advantage of them, or if they were planning to keep you at arm's length indefinitely, they would never, ever hand over the blueprint to their financial security.
It's just too much leverage.
Way too much leverage.
That makes total sense. They're showing you the books before the press release.
Okay, so if emotional trust and practical safety are the first massive hurdles, what happens when the relationship inevitably asks them to adapt?
That's a great question.
Because you literally cannot be in a partnership without some level of compromise or allowing the other person to influence you.
That is exactly where we encounter the threat to independence, and it is a highly volatile area for the avoidant nervous system.
And this brings up a fascinating dynamic, especially relevant for female avoidance. They start seeking out your advice, and more importantly, they actually follow through on it.
Yeah. Now, I have to push back on this a little bit. Wait, isn't taking your partner's advice just a completely normal, mundane part of being in any healthy relationship?
It sounds like it should be.
Right. If my partner asks what color to paint the living room or how to word an email to their boss, that's not exactly surrendering their independence. Why is this highlighted as such a massive, flashing green light?
It's a very fair pushback. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of the avoidant psyche, we aren't talking about paint colors.
Okay, fair.
For a female avoidant, we find a very deep, highly sensitive wound regarding pride and self-reliance. Often they've spent their entire lives relying solely on themselves because they learned early on that depending on others leads to disappointment.
No, that makes sense.
Consequently, they tend to view unsolicited advice, or really any advice about significant life choices, as a subtle attempt to control them.
Or worse, as an implication that they are incompetent.
Exactly, that they can't manage their own lives.
Ah, I see. So for them, asking for help feels dangerously close to admitting weakness or inviting someone to take the steering wheel.
Exactly. To them, accepting advice on a real problem feels like giving up control of their own ship. So when a female avoidant voluntarily comes to you, actively asks for your input on a significant problem,
Like a career move.
right, a career move or a family dispute, and then they actually implement your suggestion, it means they have entirely dropped their guard.
Wow.
They have successfully silenced that screaming internal alarm that says you are trying to control them. They trust your judgment more than their fear. It's a profound surrender of their fiercely guarded independence.
That completely changes how I view the simple act of asking for an opinion. It's not just a casual conversation over coffee. It's practically waving a white flag and saying, I trust you to help navigate my life.
It's a huge step.
And speaking of adapting to the relationship, another huge indicator is changing behavior without resentment. For instance, if you ask them, hey, I would really love it if we could spend more time together on the weekends, and they actually adjust their rigid schedule to make it happen.
This is a crucial indicator, but the research makes a really important distinction here that we need to unpack regarding the two main subtypes of avoidance.
The dismissive and the fearful, right.
Yes, because they handle change very differently.
Right. Let's define those quickly for the listener, because the nuance really matters here.
Absolutely. A dismissive avoidant is someone who operates with incredibly rigid, almost impenetrable boundaries. They are the classic I am an island archetype.
They just don't budge.
Right. Generally speaking, they simply will not change their behavior or their routines until they are entirely 100% internally ready to do so. They are highly resistant to people-pleasing.
But the fearful avoidant has a much more chaotic internal experience.
Very much so. A fearful avoidant, sometimes called disorganized, wants deep connection, but they are terrified of it at the exact same time.
They want a boat, but they're terrified of drowning.
That's a perfect way to put it. Because they are often highly attuned to conflict and desperately want to avoid it, a fearful avoidant might change their behavior externally just because they are exhausted.
Oh.
They are tired of the fighting, tired of the perceived negativity, so they will agree to hang out on the weekends just to keep the peace and manage your emotions.
But internally,
Internally, they will harbor deep, simmering resentment toward you for essentially forcing them out of their comfort zone.
so the key metric here isn't just that they change their schedule, it's the complete lack of resentment when they do it.
Precisely. If a fearful avoidant genuinely changes their behavior to meet your needs, and they do it happily, without any underlying bitterness, heavy sighs, or passive-aggressive comments,
If real.
yes, it demonstrates a profound level of respect and internal commitment. It means they aren't just trying to manage your anxiety. They actively want to make you happy because they value your presence in their life more than they value their rigid routines.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Oh yeah, the sabotage.
Because as we look at all these quiet internal milestones, the benefit of the doubt, the financial transparency, the advice-taking, the resentment-free compromise, the research pivots to how easily this fragile progress can be completely destroyed.
It's tragic, honestly.
And the tragic part is, it's almost always destroyed by the non-avoidant partner who is desperate for the relationship to work.
It is a heartbreaking cycle of self-sabotage. And it is usually born out of entirely understandable but ultimately destructive anxiety.
This brings us to the future trap. The final hidden sign is when the avoidant talks about the future, and they aren't triggered or panicked by it.
Right.
We're talking about everyday practical future things. They casually mention a weekend trip you two are taking next month, or they say they're excited for the dinner you're planning to cook on Friday, or they talk about what you should do for your birthday in a few weeks.
Now, to a securely attached person, mentioning a dinner plan for Friday is trivial. It's just scheduling. But when an avoidant makes future plans with you, unprompted, they genuinely see a connection. The research is incredibly clear on this point. Avoidants almost never make future plans just to please you or string you along.
Really?
Yes, the mere thought of a future obligation feels heavy to them. So if they say it, they absolutely mean it. They are actively visualizing you in their life down the road.
But here is the trap. The avoidant is quietly planning this future, feeling really good about it internally, maybe looking at hotels for that trip next month.
Right.
Meanwhile, the non-avoidant partner is looking entirely at the day-to-day micro-reality. They see the avoidant being a little emotionally distant on a Tuesday, or maybe taking too long to text back on a Wednesday, and they start to panic.
The non-avoidant partner's own nervous system kicks into overdrive. They become terrified by the immediate short-term emotional distance.
Just start spiraling.
Exactly. Thinking they're pulling away, they don't actually care about me. That trip they mentioned means absolutely nothing. It was just a lie to keep me quiet. The anxiety completely takes over the driver's seat.
And then comes the explosion. The anxious partner focuses so intensely on that Tuesday distance that they just crash out.
Yep.
They react negatively, they pick a fight out of nowhere, they hurl accusations driven entirely by illogical fear and panic. And what happens on the avoidance end?
It becomes an immediate self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, no.
The avoidant, who was actually feeling quite secure and optimistic about the future, is suddenly hit with this intense, seemingly unprovoked emotional outburst. Remember their core wound.
The fear of being trapped or criticized?
Exactly. Their deeply ingrained fears being trapped, criticized, or dealing with volatile demands are instantly validated. Their nervous system screams, danger!
So they just wall back up?
They shut down, they pull away entirely, and those tentative future plans instantly evaporate.
And the absolute worst part is the conclusion the anxious partner draws from the wreckage. They look at the ruined plans, they look at the avoidant pulling away, and they say, see, I knew it. My anxiety was right. They were lying about the future all along.
When in reality,
The reality is the future was completely real. It would have happened if the panic hadn't blown it up.
this raises an important question for you, the listener. How can you navigate this highly sensitive dynamic without accidentally destroying the very relationship you are trying so hard to save?
Right.
And the answer requires immense emotional regulation. When you feel that anxiety rising in your chest because they seem a little distant on a Tuesday, you cannot let that panic dictate your actions.
You have to force yourself to communicate logically, not reactively.
Exactly. You can still state your feelings truthfully, and you absolutely should hold your ground regarding your needs. But you do it calmly, without the dramatic explosion. And crucially, you have to extend the exact same grace to them that we discussed earlier.
You have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Precisely. Just as they overrode their survival instincts to trust your clumsy loner comment, You have to override your anxiety.
Right.
You have to assume that their Tuesday distance is just a temporary need for space to regulate their own energy, not a fundamental catastrophic rejection of you or the future they have been quietly planning.
So if we pull back and look at this whole map we've laid out, I mean, understanding these quiet internal mechanisms can legitimately save your relationship.
It really can.
Just knowing about that invisible 3 to 6 month timeline gap can save you months of agonizing self-doubt. Recognizing that them giving you the benefit of the doubt over a misunderstanding isn't just them being polite, it's a massive physiological victory over their own fear.
Absolutely.
Seeing that sharing their mortgage balance or taking your advice on a career move are actual profound declarations of trust. And understanding that when they casually talk about your birthday next month, it is real.
Subtle.
Knowing these things can stop your own nervous system from panicking, stop you from crashing out, and stop you from accidentally self-sabotaging a relationship that is actually quietly on incredibly solid ground.
Well said.
So, what does this all mean? I think it means that romantic progress doesn't always look the way Hollywood tells us it should. It's not always a grand, sweeping gesture in the rain at the end of a rom-com.
Definitely not.
Sometimes, true romantic progress looks like someone awkwardly showing you their Roth IRA statement, or simply assuming you meant well when you said something dumb.
It is a profound reframing of what love and commitment look like in practice. It moves away from the performative and into the deeply personal.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with something much larger to consider. We have spent this entire deep dive analyzing how an avoidant giving you the benefit of the doubt is the ultimate undeniable sign of their affection and trust. But what if we flip the mirror?
Oh, I like that.
We live in an era characterized by constant suspicion, the hyper-analysis of every single text message, and an absolute overload of relationship content telling us to constantly scan for red flags and guard our hearts at all costs.
It's exhausting.
It is. In that context of hypervigilance, perhaps the greatest, most radical sign of love that anyone can offer, regardless of their attachment style, is the simple, courageous choice to assume the absolute best of our partner's intentions.
Yeah.
It fundamentally changes the entire dynamic of a relationship when you stop looking for proof that they want to leave and start trusting the quiet proof that they want to stay. So as you navigate your own connections, it's worth asking yourself, how often are you giving the benefit of the doubt?